Hi there, welcome to another Little Dad Diary. I say little because they can only be 10 minutes long, or basically they don't let you publish it. Anyway, welcome to Tuesday afternoon. It's nearly 5 o'clock. Why am I telling you the time? And Ethan's first day back is done and dusted. And the good news is it has been a good day for him. Came out of school, big smile on his face, likes his new teacher, had a good chat with her. Mrs. Anthony seems really nice, Miss Anthony. And he seemed really happy, which is a big relief because for any parent today, regardless whether you've gone through something like Ethan has, it's a big deal, isn't it? For some kids, it's their first ever day. For others, it's just the end of a 6-week period. For some parents, a massive relief that they're back. But for any kid, I remember when I was young, I know it's a while ago, going back to school is a big deal, particularly in those younger years, because it's going to be a new classroom, probably a new teacher. You know, work's going to get a little bit harder. And you are kind of a bit apprehensive, sometimes very apprehensive, and then you sort of see your friends and everything's fine again. So, yeah, this morning, it wasn't a wobble I had. I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to call it like it is. Because I think sometimes we try and dress up grief and situations like this, and sometimes you just need to call it what it is. And I think for him, going back to school without his mum around is cheap. And that was the best reaction I ever had from someone. In the very early days, bumped into a mum in Costa Coffee in Caversham. She knew Gemma from nursery days. I hadn't seen her since it happened, and she turned around to me and said, "I'm so sorry what's happened to Gemma. It's just fucking shit." And I laughed and hugged her because she'd hit the nail on the head. Sometimes you've got to call it what it is. And it might not be the language I'd use normally, but sometimes those words are entirely apt for a situation such as this, because for any kid, you know, on moments like this, when we're a bit unsure, we're nervous, or we're ill, or whatever it is, those are the times you really do call out for your mum. You miss your mum, you want your mum. You know, when I get ill sometimes, even when I was married to Gemma, you sort of, I don't know, you kind of crave just that little bit of motherly love. And it's not saying that dads can't provide that, because they can, but there's something very unique and different about the love that a mum and the care a mum brings to her kids. And when that's taken away, that's desperately hard. And it is shit. And I just was calling it what it is. And thanks for lots of lovely support. You know, I know the people who care are not tired of my grief. I know that. Maybe that's the wrong phrase, but you know, I feel a little bit like that sometimes. With friends as well a little bit. That maybe they're just a bit tired of what's going on. Tilly is just starting to nudge the phone. It's not appeared in shot yet, but she will, as she always does. And it was interesting last night because I'm part of this Facebook group, very tightly controlled, which is run by a charity called Widowed and Young. I think I've mentioned before. Brilliant charity that is set up to support people who lose a partner, a husband or wife, 50 and under. I think it's 50 or maybe 51. But essentially to support those who lose someone at the wrong time in life. I don't go on there loads, but I went on there last night for the first time in a couple of weeks. And I found it really interesting. The first post I saw was from a lady who lost her husband. She's got 2 kids. And she said this, she said, you know, the hardest thing about going through this is not actually my own grief. She said, I can kind of deal with that. It's hard and it's grim and all those kind of things. The hardest part is dealing with the sorrow you feel for your kids, because you are given a situation that you simply cannot solve. And it seems a bloody obvious thing to say, but I cannot solve the biggest thing missing from Ethan's life, and that is his mum. I can't bring her back, do anything to do that, but it's obviously not going to happen. And it's horrible. You know, I feel I can cope just about with the pain I feel and the grief I'm going through. What I really struggle with, and that woman who said that last night, and in the comments under, everyone was saying the same thing, who was in the same situation, and that is that's the biggest heartbreak, because you're not just mourning the loss of a person, you're mourning the fact that Ethan is not going to grow up with a mum. You're mourning the lost years that Gemma and Ethan were going to have together. All those things you thought were not certainties, because nothing is in life, but you know, all the things you thought were going to happen now don't. And by the age of 24, which is really young, 2/3 of Ethan's life will have been without Gemma, without his mum. That's just mind-blowing to think about, and it's heartbreaking. You want to solve it. And yesterday afternoon, I was just doing the washing. We got back from a trip away to France to see Gemma's dad. I said to him, just tidy your room a little bit before the term starts. And he found, when he was tidying, a little booklet that he'd drawn with Mummy ahead of Christmas quite a few years ago. It was before he could write. So he'd done the drawings, and the words he wanted to use, Mummy had written. So he sees Mummy's handwriting, and it just set him off. a stark reminder that those kind of lovely things they did together, he cannot do anymore. And it set him off, and then the nerves about going back to school today and mum not being around all came flooding out. And you know what? I just called it what it is with him. And I just said, Ethan, this is horrible. Because sometimes we try and dress it up for our kids, and I wouldn't use the words I was using earlier to him, but I just said to him, I said, my boy, this is horrible, and my heart breaks for you, and I'd do anything to change this, but I'm going to be here for you, and I'm going to walk you through this and hold you every step of the way. And a few minutes later, he was okay and he was fine. But I think it's important sometimes just to call it what it is, and I did that this morning. It wasn't about having a big wobble. It was just kind of just saying this for him is shit. It is. You've got to call a spade sometimes with this and not dress it up to make it more palatable for other people, because this is a crap situation. People who've gone through it and are going through it know that all too well. And it's a hard thing to get your head around. When I look at Gemma's sister Rebecca, and I look at her mum and her dad David, it seems a really obvious thing to say, but Rebecca will never have another sister. Wendy will never have another daughter. David will never have another daughter. Ethan will never have another mum. Now, for me, it's not about discounting what I feel, but I know that Gemma, we never had the conversation, we didn't have time. I know that she would want me eventually to find happiness again and not to be on my own. And I know that if that day comes and I was to get remarried, I know that although I didn't have it verbally from her, it would come with her blessing, because she would not want me to be on her own. Her mum has said that to me. Gemma would never have wanted you to spend the rest of your life on your own. So I can get married again, hopefully. There's no guarantees, but I can perhaps get married again. I can have a woman in my life to walk through life with again, hopefully. Ethan can't have another mum. And so in some ways what's happened to them is unique, and it's not lessening what's happened to me and saying, well, it doesn't really matter because you can get remarried. I'm not saying that at all, but I can have again in a totally and utterly different way to what it was with Gemma, because there'll never be another Gemma, there won't be another you or me. We're all unique, but I might be able to have that happiness again, and to have someone to share my life with and to walk through life with, and to journey through and enjoy the highs and support each other in the lows and all those kind of things. All those things that I thought I'd do with Gemma for many, many, many years to come. But it wasn't to be in the end, sadly. Ethan can't have another mum. If I get remarried, yeah, might refer to him as a stepmum, but it's not his mum. It won't be his mum. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a parent who goes through this. When another half goes and you're left with kids, you want to solve it, but you simply cannot solve the problem. And the only thing you can do is, to the very best of your ability, is to walk with them, to hold them, to comfort them, to talk about it. Don't hide from it. Don't turn down those difficult conversations when they want to talk through stuff, and just embrace them and embrace what they're feeling. And that's all I ever try and do with him, is just walk through this with him, acknowledging that it's horrible and not dressing it up. So that's that really. I'm nearly up in terms of my 10 minutes. I don't feel the need to fill the entire 10 minutes. And yeah, I think the last thing I'd say on the possibility that maybe one day I'll remarry is that when that time comes, if it comes, when it's the right time, will be because it's the right time for me and that other person, not because it's the right time for others. And I've just sort of seen things from bits and bobs I've seen online from people I follow, been through something similar. People can be enormously judgmental in this area. And although they kind of want you to be happy again, they want it on their terms, and they're kind of deciding when it's right. Do you know what? The only person who'll know when it's right is you and the person that you're wanting to, you're wanting to love again. Well, not again, for the first time. It's not making an awful lot of sense here. But you know what I'm saying? It's just, I'm aware this is an area that people can be very judgmental in. And when that happens, a lot of hurt can happen, which doesn't need to happen. If people want you to be happy again, they have to trust you that you know when the time is right. And on that bombshell, I will depart and just say, if your kids are going back to school this week and they're yet to go back, lucky them. And I hope their first days are as good as Ethan's, and they come out of school with a smile on their face saying, do you know what? That wasn't so bad. God bless. Speak soon. Bye-bye.